So welcome today, everybody. Let me get into my I need to be. And so today we've got kind of a special topic that we're working on today, looking at really learning the GrowthWheel tools specifically for sales and service. We're kind of doing more of a deep dive into specific tools. And so we're going to be taking a look here at some of the challenges that are really common for all your clients having to deal with sales. We're going to look at some frameworks and how you can use those with training. And we're also going to look at some decision sheets as well. And then some best tips and tricks. So that is going to help you. So the reason we're doing this is actually I've been doing a training program with a group of women-owned, veteran-owned women businesses in the Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area. And I actually did this program using these tools earlier. And so it went over really well. And so I thought, let's kind of do maybe a deeper dive into these tools. Now, I'm sure you guys you've been doing Zoom for a while, but some of the things you can do to get the best experience is if you can turn your camera on. It does help us to get to know each other better and recognize. Also, then I can see if someone's confused or if they want to say something. Check out the gallery views. You can see everyone at once, especially when I'm not sharing, and you can always use that chat for any questions and comments. And rename yourself with your full name and location so we can remember each other better. And you can use reactions as well. So it's a nice way you can be a little bit more interactive. If you have any questions as we go through, do use that chat. And so I can see any questions and David and I can make sure we're responding. So today we're really focusing on one kind of aspect of GrowthWheel, which is really the tool sharing aspect. And so we're going to be looking at these decision sheets and some frameworks as well. Of course, everything's online and it's on paper, but we're specifically digging into this one area of GrowthWheel, which is sales and service, just one part of the customer relations. So let's look at the tools that we have in this focus area. Well, first we have several, excuse me, my phone's ringing. We have some framework that's going to help you think through those 12 steps in a sales chain. You'll also take a look at a second framework about the sales funnel. How many customers or clients do your clients need in their pipeline or funnel to get enough sales? And then we'll take a look at a third framework about having a dialogue with their customers. So what are your clients, customers skeptical about? So what do we need to take a look at? Then we're going to take a look at some decision sheets. Always, going to help us to make those decisions. So we're going to decide how to strengthen that sales process, how to build a pipeline and estimate client sales, how to create a plan for those monthly sales activities. This is a good one if your client's new and doesn't have a sales plan. This is a good planning one. How to prepare responses to expected customer objections. They're going to happen, so it's a good idea to help them get prepared for that. And how to deliver great service throughout the entire buying process, from before the buying, while, and then after service. So always decision sheets are going to be one page just to make it really simple. And there's also an article that you might want to share with your clients as well, The Art of Selling, that goes into depth about how can your clients sell when they don't consider themselves a salesperson. So how to kind of ease that in. So we're going to go get focused and get started looking at how we can help you be the best business advisor you can be. And really, we're looking here at strengthening that sales process. I think sometimes our clients, I remember a woman, she was a baker, and she's like, well, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a baker. And I thought, well, you're not, well, I actually didn't say it. I didn't think it. I said it to her. I said, you're not anything if you're not selling. So we still need our clients to sell. And so, but sometimes they're more interested in developing or presenting or delivering products than actually selling them. So how can we help them think through this and get better at this? So you can see we've got these 4 phases in the sales chain. It illustrates the processes that they're continuously working on. So it shows different sales tasks connected with each phase. So you've got the opportunity to examine which of these tasks your clients find most appealing, which ones do they want to maybe get some outside assistance. Selling is a trade that can be learned just like anything else, but requires practice. So we want to get an overview of these tasks so we can complete them one at a time and help the clients. So here's a quick video that kind of goes into this and some discussion points you may want to think through. The GrowthWheel Framework sales chain shows 4 phases and 12 tasks that companies need to be good at when selling. The first phase, sales preparation, has to do with the planning of the sale before the actual sale begins. The second phase, sale opening, is about calling, writing, and meeting with possible and actual customers. The third phase deals with the legal part of the sales process, with negotiation, invoicing, and contracts. The fourth phase is focusing on how to make sure that the order is paid for and the customers are happy. Also, in this phase, you might try to repeat the sales when the possibility of a new order arises. A key point of this framework is that the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. That means it is necessary for the company to be good at all 12 tasks if the sale is to succeed. Topics for discussion include: which phases in the sales process, if any, do you tend to spend more time on than another? Are there any phases that you should be improving? Would bringing in any additional competencies to the company, either through upskilling employees or hiring new employees, help you handle some of the sales tasks better? Decisions to be made may include sales process design. Decide how the sales process should be organized for different customer segments. Sales phase improvements. Decide which parts of the sales process to improve and how to do it. And hiring more sales support. Decide whether or not you need to hire new salespeople to improve all or some parts of the sales chain. And that's the GrowthWheel Framework Sales Chain. So we can kind of take a look at some examples and dig into this. So, we want to make sure our clients are thinking through this, and it starts with right preparation. So that's the first part. This is really where the client doesn't have contact very much with the customer, but they're focusing on the important prep work that is going to prepare them for selling. So this could be choosing the right customer segments, generating lists of potential customers, preparing those sales materials to be used for those meetings. So this can be kind of a high degree of desk work, and it can't be an area where some entrepreneurs, they feel is easier than actually doing the sales. So, but with proper preparation, they might even gain some energy and some self-confidence that's going to encourage them to seek those customers more actively. The second phase is looking at this initial contact with the clients. So this is opening the sale, being outgoing, investigating, finding out what the client really needs. So sales tasks here are networking activities. They're going to forge relationships, open doors, provide the introduction to potential customers and other clients. Also, it could be, client dialogues, could be emails, letters, personal calls, whatever, with the intention of maybe getting a meeting to further have some discussions. So some of your entrepreneurs might find this an easy part because it's not really about convincing the client. But for others, I know it can be very overwhelming and they don't like this part at all because it's sort of that initial customer contact. So talk about it with your clients and think about for them, what parts of this are most comfortable or come easiest to them. Then we're at the point where we're going to get the order. So we're looking at concluding or closing the sale. So, if some people are less comfortable with initiating the sale, they might feel very much at home here, because this is really about, your oral or written presentations, addresses the client's needs. And so it's also negotiating the order. There's a lot of skills with that, finding good ways to present the right sales arguments. And so also make sure this, accepting an invoice, order confirmation, or maybe even a contract. So if your entrepreneur really likes to deliver the goods, they might be really good at this part. And so an important part of this phase is to communicate professional competence to inspire their customers' trust. Then finally, we have the last part, which is really about building up strong relations. This is sales maintenance. It's not about establishing new client relations, but keeping and expanding what they've got. So this is about after-sales service, documentation, education, depending on what your client's selling, helping them to kind of onboard with whatever tool or whatever service that they've got. So it could also, quality collaboration, keeping the customer informed and making the best possible grounds for further sales. So this tends to be, my experience, is the least intimidating for your entrepreneurs, even if they don't think they're a good salesperson, because really this is where they're kind of passionate about developing and delivering their products and services. And so they need to kind of work through all of this. But I would love to hear from you guys about what are some of your clients' biggest sales challenges? What do you see as the areas that they have the most difficulty and working through? And are any of these kind of hitting the nail on the head for those? You can unmute or you can put it in the chat. Any comments about what you see commonly?
So I don't think they think about sales. They don't think that they are selling. And they think that if they post something on social media, that's what selling is.
Right.
And so, yeah.
So that's where really, you know, breaking a sales process down to these specific parts might be useful. And not everybody has all the parts. I mean, if you have a bakery store, you may not be doing networking, or you may be doing networking in the local chamber of commerce, and you may be doing social media networking and so on. But at least, you know, you're not telling your clients that they have all these 12 steps in their sales cycle, but it's a way to open up and see that sales is different than marketing, right? Marketing can be a brochure that you use as part of your customer dialogue. Social media can be a part of that dialogue in opening the sale, but that's not, you know, all there is. So I think that is a really good point, and a place to use this just to open up a conversation about what is sales. And later, Elizabeth can show you a decision sheet, of course, that will help clients figure out what's missing in their current process.
John, I saw that you wrote in the chat, hesitancy to get started. You want to expand on that? They just, word of mouth is going to work, right? They're just going to come to you.
Partly what we're talking about, that they just avoid it. They don't like it, especially, you know, dialing for dollars, getting on the phone, doing that kind of, or even face-to-face. There's just so many other things they'd rather do than sell or start to sell. They, you know, business owners tend to do what they enjoy doing, and a lot of times selling's not what they enjoy. There obviously are lots of exceptions, but that's been my experience.
Yeah, and that's actually where this framework is part of an article called something like "Sales If You're Not a Salesperson." What's the title again, Elizabeth?
Very similar.
Okay.
It was the art of selling when you're not a salesperson. Exactly.
That address some of those emotional barriers. And one of the points is that it is a technique. It is a way that you are systematic about communicating. So, and also I would think for that particular, John, attitude, it can be helpful to talk about how, you know, a bad salesperson would, you know, try to sell people something that they don't need, and nobody likes that. But a good salesperson is trying to figure out what people need and then give it to them. So that might make someone feel better, or you may realize, as this framework is speaking to, that there's a very big difference between opening the sale and closing the sale. And some people are great, maybe extroverts, that are just striking up a conversation. They're out there and they're building relationship and they're opening the conversation. But sometimes these are not the people who get the signature. And then the other people who don't want to be out there in the front, but if you ever invite them to a meeting, they can explain all the details. This can be technical sellers, for example, and they create the trust that makes someone write the check or sign the contract. So even that conversation with someone, you know, are you the type that is opening, or are you the type that is closing? Now, unfortunately, if you're one person business, you're going to have to do both, or hire someone to do it, or maybe look at, you know, the part that you don't like, and are there any ways that you can change the way that's happening, so you can get around that in an easier way somehow.
I think the best salespeople are not necessarily the extroverts, the backslappers. They're the ones that have the process, and they follow the steps, and they look upon themselves as being problem solvers, and that's a whole different connotation, I think, to a lot of people.
Yes, I like that a lot.
So we've got the framework, and so one of the things we wanted to show you is, you know, you can use that, and you can even play the video during your trainings. Let's put that up there as something, and then hand out a couple of decision sheets. And so the training I'm doing, what we did is we actually sent out ahead of time the decision sheets and the framework, so they would have them ahead. And then we said, okay, we took a look at those decision sheets. Now let's look at a couple frameworks. And we actually gave them some time to work on them. So the first decision sheet after that framework, and they've had some chance to reflect on their current sales process, is thinking about how to improve it. And so one of the things we looked at was this decision sheet called Sales Chain. So if your clients want to improve their ability to sell, they need to identify and strengthen that weakest link. So again, like Dave was saying, some of them are going to be great at closing, some of them are going to be great at opening. So just, how can they figure that out? Maybe if they're lucky enough to have partners, they might be so lucky to have partners that complement their strengths. So you can divide that. But, like David said, you might have to look at something else. So here's a quick video. And again, the videos you can actually play for your trainings if you want. So here's a video that goes along with this.
This growth wheel decision sheet is called Sales Chain, and it's about finding ways to strengthen each part of the sales process. The job to be done is to break down the sales process into different phases to assess them individually. The challenge is that our processes are only as strong as the weakest link. And when it comes to sales, we want to make sure that all of the links in the chain are strong and solid. The benefit of going through this decision sheet is that by systematically going through all of our sub-processes in sales, we can find new ways to strengthen our company's sales chain. Get started by gaining an overview of the 12 different parts of the sales chain. Then check off how well you think your company is doing on each part today. Continue by deciding who in the company will be responsible for each sub-process in sales. Some links in the sales chain may be outsourced. Finish by making suggestions for how to improve the sub-processes to strengthen the sales chain link by link. Next, take some action steps. Make a 30, 60, 90 days plan to carry out the suggestions to strengthen the sales effort. Delegate tasks within the sub-processes. Find ways to make parts of the sales process shorter. And that was a quick introduction into the sales chain growth wheel decision sheet.
So what you can also do is actually show them one that's actually been completed and filled out. So this one has been filled out from GrowthWheel's perspective. So you can see immediately where we think we're stronger versus not so strong. So we need to improve right there at the top, improve planning our sales, finding additional conferences or events where we can actually speak and present. So our prospect definition is pretty good because we've got a niche market. Our sales material pretty good, but the website, other market specific webinars could be improved. In terms of opening the sale, we do pretty well with networking. Maybe we could find other target markets, find more clients for our funnel. We could also improve at client and customer dialogue, collecting more information about our customers' needs. We do offer personal demos upon request, but we could do more outbound sales instead of waiting for calls to come to us. When it comes to closing the sale, we send out extensive packets of materials with our quotes, and we offer free samples of tools, but we could improve that by adding more videos into the electronic proposal. And in terms of negotiation, we have the same price for everyone. We offer electronic signatures with our online quotes, but maybe we could simplify that process even more. And then finally, maintaining the sale. Every advisor who goes through a course with me is invited for an onboarding call. We continue to upgrade our platform for the advisors every month. And we have ongoing training like this. We're going to be changing this up in the next year with our continuing education. This we're going to be doing. And in terms of repeating sales, we're starting to schedule pre-renewal meetings with some of our biggest customers like whole state networks to make sure it's working for them. So that's an example of how we filled it out from GrowthWheel's perspective, but that might be helpful to help show your clients and walk them through it. Again, the decision sheets, I always tell my clients, well, a couple things. I would say, they're not going to give you the right answers. They're going to ask you the right questions, and they're just brainstorming tools. So you can play around with it and figure out what's best for you. So that is one decision sheet. And then with the group that I was working with out of the East Coast, I said, but maybe what we need to do is actually create a plan for your monthly sales activities. And so, with sales and marketing and social media, one call, one newsletter, one Instagram post, then, that just ain't going to cut it. You've got to be consistent, and creating a plan helps to ensure that. So here's a little review of this decision sheet.
This growth wheel decision sheet is called Sales Activity Plan, and it's about how to make a plan for your monthly sales activities. The job to be done is to decide how best to sell your products and services and how much effort is required. The challenge is that, unfortunately, sales don't just happen on their own very often. With so many marketing messages bombarding us every day, it's easy for customers to forget about us if we don't do anything. The benefit of going through this decision sheet is that by making a plan for our sales activities, we gain a tool to follow up on the activities that lead to an increase in revenue. Get started by gaining an overview of the different sales and marketing activities that are relevant to your company. Continue by outlining for the next 6 months the number of times to carry out the sales activities each month. Note the monthly average. Finish by deciding how much time and money to spend on each sales activity. Next, take some action steps. Set up a meeting with a responsible salesperson in the company to show them the sales plan going forward. Agree with the salespeople on the goal numbers for each of the sales activities and for each of the company's customer segments. Make a schedule for reporting the actual sales activities carried out. And that was a quick introduction to the Sales Activity Plan GrowthWheel Decision Sheet.
So I'd love to hear from you guys with these decision sheets. How can you use these with your clients? And so the way I did it, and I'll take this down so I can see everybody, is we sent out the decision sheets and the framework ahead of time, showed it to them, and just said, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of time. So they had some quiet time during the workshop to actually work on one, and then we put them into breakout rooms with their advisors, because I'm just facilitating the training every Monday, but then they have a follow-up session with their business advisors through the week. So they could chat about that, and then everybody could come back and kind of say, what they experienced and what they're going to be working on. And what, again, as brainstorming, what was their aha moment? What are they going to be doing differently? But I'd love to hear from you guys. How can you use these decision sheets, and how have you with your clients?
Yeah, did you ever email one of these sheets to clients? Did they hesitate? Did they engage in them? Or are you inspired to send one of these sheets? Maybe you can mention a particular client where you think, oh, this client might actually appreciate taking a look at this.
Yes, I actually have to meet a client in a few minutes, and I will be sharing this sheet with her. So,
Perfect.
yes, she can benefit for sure from the breakdown of this particular decision sheet. And while I already know that she has somewhat of a plan regarding her sales, I think this will help her to streamline the process that much more. So thank you.
Great. We look forward to hear how it goes.
Yeah, this is for a startup who doesn't have a sales plan. This can be sales activity plan can be a really good one. It's just like, oh, yeah, I guess I hadn't thought about, am I going to be sending out emails? Am I going to be following up with people that I've met at the chamber networking events? You go to the chamber networking events. Okay, now what? What are you going to do now about that? What other events are you going to? Are you going to host your own events? What exactly are you doing that makes sense? So helping them to kind of create that plan instead of those leads, those contacts just dying on the vine. All right, well, we looked kind of at the sales process, but we also want to look at developing the pipeline, and also how they can look at objections. And I'm a big one about helping clients think through those objections. Although I know that sometimes, especially for those of you that work with startups, or if they're inventors, who's going to object? What is there to object to? It's perfect. So, because I made this, it's just my invention, and so it's fabulous. So, they love to think that. So you've got to kind of help ground them a little bit and help them see where they need to go. So in my training that I just did, we actually took a break after we kind of did this, and we talked about what they were going to do. And then I showed them, I said, we're going to now look at 2 different frameworks and then 3 more decision sheets for this next session. And so then we started off looking at the sales pipeline. So again, sometimes your clients are lucky enough, they've got a great idea, sells itself, but that's so rare. And even if they experience it every once in a while, it's really not a reliable source of long-term income. So for most of our entrepreneurs, continuous sales efforts and strong client relations are really what's going to determine their success. So we want to make sure that we can help them to think through that. And so this is the GrowthWheel sales funnel, and we'll look at this.
The GrowthWheel Framework sales funnel shows the activities that lead to a sale and illustrates how leads are converted into orders. A number of prospects or leads results in a slightly smaller number of usable contacts. Only a part of these usable contacts will be interested in a meeting. Out of this number, a few will accept an offer, with only a part of these few offers resulting in an actual order. And so, the sales funnel shows the process of lead conversion. A key point of this framework is that many companies need to make contact and start dialoguing with a great number of leads to get the number of orders they want. A company can also increase its sales by improving its skills in each of the processes within the sales funnel, therefore making the lead conversion better. Topics for discussion include: how well are you doing in sales right now? How many orders do you need to do well? How many orders does it take for the company to reach its goal for monthly or yearly sales? How many offers, meetings, contacts, and leads does it take? Decisions to be made may include monitoring conversion rates. Decide how to collect data to monitor sales conversion rates. Improving conversion rates. Decide which initiatives you will use to improve conversion rates. And sales targets. Decide the number of targets for closed deals, quotes, meetings, contacts, and leads per month, quarter, or year. And that's the GrowthWheel Framework sales funnel.
All right, so we can take a look at some examples of creating a pipeline for sales for our clients. And so I think it is helpful for clients if they know what their closing rate is. So for every 10 quotes or inquiries in their business, how many do they actually close or sell? So I actually worked with an art gallery where the husband was the artist, the wife ran the business end. He had no idea what his closing rate was, but the wife said about 25%. So of every 100 people who were seriously interested in a piece of art at their gallery, they sold about 25 of them. But that isn't how many people walked in the gallery. That's how many people were seriously interested in a piece of art. So you got to work backwards. So how many people walk into the gallery? So how many people do we need walking into the gallery? And how many are walking in that aren't interested in anything? So they estimate maybe 75% just, they walk in, they kind of walk back up. So if we need 100 people who are seriously interested that we can actually sell those 25 pieces of art, how many people do we need walking into the gallery? You need 400 people, because those 100 people who are seriously interested represent just 25% of total shoppers. The other 75% or 300 people aren't seriously interested. So you've got to kind of work your way backwards to figure out, all the factors that are going to impact that funnel. And it could include lead qualification. So making sure that the leads really are qualified. Do they need or want the product or service that your client's offering? Can they afford it? However your client makes a distinction, the goal is to sell to prospects who are ready to make a decision and buy the product that they're really ready to sell. You also have to consider about the buyer's persona. So does the prospects, do they need a solution right away? Are they transitioning from one product or service to another? Because that can guide the conversation down a path that's going to solve it for the customer. And if they choose, your entrepreneur's offering is going to help their close rate. So, help them think through the customer persona and the customer portfolio portion of GrowthWheel, that focus area. And then, of course, overcoming objections. As an entrepreneur, they're on the front line of their company, often acting as the face of the brand and the expert of their product or service. And so when the clients come and speak with them, the customers speak with them, they're looking for their expertise, even if it doesn't really feel like it. So we can take a look at that. And John, I saw that you said, it occurs to me that this information, the sales funnel is very familiar to us. Our clients may not be as familiar, especially how many leads are needed at the top of the funnel. Yes, they don't necessarily know their close rates. They really don't. So maybe that's the first thing that we want them to do, is start figuring out how are they going to collect that data, which was one of the decisions from the video. So thinking, how are they going to collect that data so they actually know what their closing rate is, to get a better idea. We can also take a look at overcoming those objections. So it's great to fill the sales funnel, that's important, but it's great for your clients to think ahead to the sales objections that their clients or customers may have. So how can they put those customers at ease? And it's really helpful for clients to do this. I think that every one of your clients can benefit from thinking through sales objections, because it's just going to happen. Sometimes our clients, sometimes they don't like being a salesperson. They don't like that stereotypical salesperson. They want to disassociate from that person who's going to push bad products or services on clueless people. But help them to remember that good salespeople are just people who possess a strong interest in people and relations, as John was saying. So it's really about being a problem solver, as you said. So it's great to be able to connect those long-lasting client relationships. So these are just basic questions that people have about your entrepreneur's your entrepreneurs in general, their product service, their pricing, or about what could go wrong. So here's a little video about this.
The GrowthWheel Framework Client Dialogue shows a series of skeptical questions that you can expect the client or customer to ask in a sales situation, along with what they really want to know. The questions cover 4 elements that the client will consider before buying your product. Who is the supplier? What is the product? How much is it? And what are the risks? Knowing these questions beforehand allows you to prepare some good counter arguments. The key point of this framework is that in order to give the best sales arguments, you need to know and be prepared for how the client or customer thinks. When the client wants to know more about who you are, it is often really about whether or not they can trust you. If you can prepare for the sales situation by considering the client's thoughts and doubts, you will be better able to come up with the right sales arguments that can convince the client and create trust. Topics for discussion include: how useful are the company's current sales arguments? Are you prepared for what the client or customer really wants to know? Can you improve your sales arguments? Can you adjust your arguments to different customer segments? Decisions to be made may include: key messages for customers. Decide which core messages to communicate to your customers and segments. Messages for different customer segments. Decide whether you need different key messages for different customer segments or different buyers. And communication of messages. Decide where to put various messages in the company's marketing material. And that's the GrowthWheel Framework Client Dialogue.
All right. So one thing that you can definitely point out here is the messages for different segments. So in my training I had done a couple weeks ago, I had them work on the elevator pitch, and the top of the elevator pitch decision sheet says customer segment. So we kind of talked about you can do this and differentiate and think about what different customers potentially will need or want depending on the industry they're in, the type of business they're in. So we can take a look at some examples of this. So with sales prospects, they have questions before they make a purchase, and it's your entrepreneur's job to answer them in a way that shows the benefits of choosing them over the competition. I think leaving an objection unresolved can be really risky because the prospects may consider an unresolved objection a reason to choose another product. So that's bad news for your clients and their closing ratio and their sales funnel. So it's important that they understand the products they sell, have counterpoints ready for those objections. So overcoming objections builds credibility and trust with the prospect, and that's good news for the closing rate. So maybe the questions that the clients or the customers have is about them as a supplier. What they're really saying is, can I trust you? So how can your clients help them to feel more at ease? Do they have customer testimonials? Can they go that extra mile to be thoughtful or connect with them? When they have doubts about the product or service, what they're really saying is it really going to meet my needs? Does it do what it says on the box? Is this really going to be the be all end all that it says? Or they may be concerned about the cost. That really is it worth it? Can I afford it? Then they might have other concerns. So about riskiness, can this be returned if it doesn't work? Do you have a money back policy? Are there any guarantees? So helping your clients to think through that in terms of these concerns for their business advisors. But I'd love to hear from you guys and how you can use these frameworks with your clients. I've been talking about using them as part of training material, but are there other ideas that you have about using these particular frameworks?
Yeah, and John already said in the chat here that this of course for us as business advisors is very familiar information, but we have to remember that it may not be for the clients, and that's really where I think a picture like these frameworks or infographics, if you like, can be really helpful because it just illustrates this principle very clearly, and you can even just send it to the client without any further ado, and they can just read it and start forming an opinion about it. And then yes, when you come to the session, you can ask them the relevant question, John, how many leads do you need to get the sales that you want? And now they will understand that question. So that's how a picture may just speak 1,000 words.
Absolutely.
Beth?
I think one of the mistakes I make is I don't introduce this soon enough in my coaching. And I now think not only I wanted to attend today because I want to teach a class, the class that you all have created, your PowerPoint, but also it's now reminding me that I need to introduce this sooner in our discussion, in our advising sessions, and not wait till they've started, like when they come to us before they've started, talk about this before they even launched.
Yeah.
It's a mistake that I've been making, I think, with that.
Yeah, and again, the way I think to look at this is what you might remember from the certification course that we had a little quote from Sean Harry in Oregon, who said, if you want to get to know the decision sheets, just send them to clients and see what happens. And the same with the frameworks, Beth, just send them out. No harm is done. Worst case scenario, clients will say, what was that you sent me? I didn't understand that part. Now you have a dialogue. Now you have the interest, right? So you got this whole library. It's there for you to use. Why wouldn't you share? Why wouldn't you share someone with one tool, just one tool with every single client? And you can make it a habit of yours when you get a new client before you go to a meeting. What am I going to send this client? They probably, the sales funnel, everyone can use that. Let me send that one, right? Or there may be other frameworks that you have a particular preference for. Click the star, bring them into your favorite tools, have them handy, and just like, hey, before our meeting, I just wanted to share this with you. Let me know what you think, right? Not asking them to let me know what you think. And something will come back maybe before the meeting or during the meeting. And if not, well, not relevant, you can always send them something else.
Yeah. All right, there's no other comments about that. Then let's look at the framework, or the decision sheets rather, that go along with these frameworks. And so again, what I
just one more comment, Elizabeth, sorry. That's one key point about why sometimes you want to use the frameworks instead of the decision sheets. Because if you send someone a decision sheet, you're kind of asking them to do the work, right? Fill it out. They may fill it out, they may not fill it out. We don't really care. We just care if it leads to an action step. So they're not meant to necessarily be filled out. But with the frameworks, it's much lighter. You don't really ask them to do something. Now, do we want the clients to do something? Yes. Do we want them to engage, make decisions, take actions? Yes. But the timing might not be right. And that's where the frameworks come in handy. It's just like very uncommittal. Let me just send you this. Take a look at it, right? You're not even sending them an article and expecting them to read it. So when they come to the meeting, they're going to feel bad because they didn't read the article. There's no pressure with the frameworks, right? Just take a look at this. Let me know what you think. So that's where, that's a way to later, when the client engaged, that's when you come up with the decision sheets that Elizabeth is going to show you now that really turns this into the real work and what really makes a difference. So let's see them, Elizabeth.
All right, I'd be happy to do that. All right, so we start off, now that we've had a chance to reflect for our clients, working with them about improving their sales pipeline and looking at objections, we can look at these 3 decision sheets we have for you and the client to explore. So we've got a decision sheet to think through that sales pipeline. So you start by selecting the customer or customer segment, and then you use that chart at the top kind of decide who goes where into those different levels. And we'll talk about that right after this short video.
This GrowthWheel decision sheet is called Customer Pipeline, and it's about building a pipeline and estimating sales. The job to be done is to keep track of our customers so we can get an idea of how much sales income we will make in the near future. The challenge is that, sadly, not every customer or client will end up purchasing from us. To maximize our closing percentage, we should track where our prospects are in the sales pipeline and work through the process to close the sale. The benefit of going through this decision sheet is that by creating a sales pipeline, we gain a tool to follow the progress of our customer prospects. Get started by selecting for which customer or customer segment to prepare the pipeline report. Also note who is going to be the account manager. Continue by placing persons and/or projects in the 4 categories, according to whether they are projects in closing, opportunities, contacts who have yet to receive a quote, or leads you need to contact. Next, note the quote amount to give the customer. Figure out the probability of getting an order and calculate the sales forecast. Finish by writing down the spread of the expected sales over the coming months. Next, take some action steps. Transfer your notes to a spreadsheet and update the numbers on an ongoing basis. Make an action plan for initiatives that can increase the probability of sales with each customer. Move leads to contacts and contacts to opportunities. And that was a quick introduction into the Customer Pipeline GrowthWheel Decision Sheet.
All right, so we're going to take a look at an example where it's been filled out here with building that customer pipeline here. So to me, leads, that's where your client has a business card, they've met someone at a networking event or something, they just have a contact, I mean, just a lead, just they've got a business card, they've got a name and maybe an email and a phone number. Contacts may be something where they've had some discussions, but there's no quote or bid that's gone out yet. So they're just having these discussions, they've talked with them. Depending on your client's work, maybe they've come in to take a look at some of it. They've gotten asked, come to a webinar or come and had a conversation about something. Opportunities are maybe where they've actually requested a quote or they're looking at, how would this work out? I'm interested in finding out. So they're kind of gathering more information. And then closing is, okay, they've signed the account or the contract or whatever it is. And we're just waiting to see when all the paperwork kind of comes through. So it's that 90% chance, really just waiting for that order confirmation, waiting for an organization's, whatever department to approve of things. So that's an example of kind of looking at this and how your clients can use this to figure out, okay, here's how much, here's where we are. Is it coming in this month, next month, or later? And this is something like all of these decision sheets, I always describe them as brainstorming tools. But they can go through these over and over again. So like every quarter, taking a look, yeah, who do we have in the pipeline right now? So what else could be coming down the road for us, and helping them to think through that and see, oh, we don't have very much in the way of leads, or we don't have anything here in this category. Maybe we need to make sure we keep moving these leads up, and we still need to keep getting more leads to put through the pipeline as well. Now, the other one we took a look at was sales objections. It happens. What matters is how our clients can respond to them. So helping them to think through those common sales objections. There's no money, I don't need it, it's bad timing, we already have another supplier. Thinking through those and asking your clients also to think through, are those really no's, or are they just not nows? So how can your entrepreneur show their value to their customers in these various categories? And a little video about this one.
This GrowthWheel decision sheet is called Sales Objections, and it's about preparing responses to expected customer objections. The job to be done is to anticipate and prepare for the objections from customers in the sales process. The challenge is that salespeople should expect to face objections. It happens all the time. Rather than get discouraged by these objections, we can prepare for them ahead of time so they are handled quickly and efficiently. The benefit of going through this decision sheet is that by anticipating the customer's objections, we can prepare the counter arguments and feel stronger in the sales situation. Get started by writing down the objections you get or could imagine the customer to make within each category. Continue by considering if the actual reason for the customer's objections is caused by something else. Finish by formulating your counter arguments to the customer's objections. Next, take some action steps. Figure out which of these objections would typically be used within different customer segments. Put the new arguments into sales letters and other sales materials. Make a list of arguments to use in dialogue with customers. And that was a quick introduction to the Sales Objections GrowthWheel decision sheet.
All right, next we're going to look at one that we filled out from GrowthWheel's perspective. So when someone says, we can't afford it, what they're really saying is either we don't see the value, we don't have any budget for this, or we've got budget for only part of it. And so we can come up with counter arguments of like, well, here's what other people say, or if they don't have enough budget for the whole thing, we can restructure the quote so you can cover part of it this year, part of it next year, things like that. If they say we don't need it, what they're really saying is that either we haven't addressed their needs, they're not convinced, or they don't understand the value. So how can we kind of have that counter argument? Let me understand your needs better. Let me send you this a little bit more information. If they said poor quality, we want something better. Well, we don't know what that means because no one's ever said that to us. David wrote that, by the way. I think it's funny. So anyway, because no one has ever said, because we're fabulous. So no one's ever said that. Bad timing. So it's not the right time. What it really means is I'm too busy to review. And so it's like, well, this isn't a priority for them. So what would make you prioritize this? What are your priorities? If they say, I've got another supplier, we're using some other system. It could be like, basically they're saying others are better. We've got another relationship. And so we can kind of get some information about what's important to them, what's important in a relationship, what makes a good fit, what are their needs, having that conversation with them. If they say, my superior says no, my boss wouldn't approve, what they're really saying is, my boss has other priorities. I can't convince my boss. So then we can say, well, could your boss, would they like to see a demo of this, or would they like to see some alternatives? And then the last one we have is they say, I'm not sure. I don't trust you. I'm not sure about this. They're saying, I don't know you. I don't know your company. I don't know your clients. And so for us, we can share our history. We can introduce you to other people who are using us. We can share testimonials to kind of share that out too. So last one of the decision sheets, one that will help your clients to deliver great service to the entire buying process, not just through the beginning part, but before the buying process, while they're buying, and then that after sales. And one more video.
This GrowthWheel decision sheet is called Service Offering, and it's about delivering great service throughout the buying process. The job to be done is to consider the variety of services you can offer as either a service-based or a product-based business. The challenge is that even companies that focus on selling products still provide services, both before the sale, during the sale, and even after. The benefit of going through this decision sheet is that by considering all elements of the service offerings, we can get ideas for better service or service offerings that can become a source of income. Get started by figuring out which service elements are relevant to the company. Continue by describing the services that the company is offering right now and come up with ideas for which to offer in the future. Finish by deciding which of the various services you can bill and note how much to charge for each of them. Next, take some action steps. Make a description of each of the services you want to offer. Include service descriptions in the company's quotation templates, standard contracts, and marketing materials. Calculate the cost of providing the service and adjust your prices accordingly. And that was a quick introduction to the service offering GrowthWheel decision sheet.
All right, so we'll take a look at this one where we're looking at the service offering. And again, we filled it out from GrowthWheel's perspective. Some things are not as relevant. So some of the delivery locations and things like that, because we do a lot of our work with software. So we can see before buying, we offer webinars, but we could maybe customize that for certain segments. We do email, but maybe we could add some personalized video messages into them. We do phone calls to talk about, make sure we're going to meet their needs, but maybe we could do a more of a survey, make it more specific. We also send out info package with testimonials, but we could do some video testimonials instead of just stagnant images. And then we offer client test drives, but maybe we could do something else with some taster workshops that we could offer. In terms of while they're buying, we do have add-on services with GrowthWheel Advanced Series. We have order confirmations and things like that. And then after buying, again, not everything is perfectly relevant. Education and training, we have monthly ongoing training like this. We're going to be having a new continuing education program, which we're going to talk about later and really roll out in January. We offer 24/7 support. And but we could also do annual review calls. We do coaching calls, and we also have this sheet of the month, but we're working on recap videos. Those are going to be coming out in the next few months. And so we've got some options there. So that's a good option to kind of show clients those as well. So I'd love to hear from you guys and how can you use these decision sheets with your clients. And so I know that I'll say that the group that I just was training, one of the women, she said she had to do a presentation coming up this week, and she was using the sales objections one. And she said, you know what, Elizabeth, you said you with giving me this, she said, you gave me a 1-2 punch, which I thought was a funny way to put it. She said, she's like, and now I know. She's like, I'm going to say this, And this isn't, and what do we do if I'm not here? And what do you do? You know, if you're not using me, what are you using? And so she was really, you know, very passionate about her business. And she was very excited about using the sales objections as part of her pitch that she's going to be doing later this week. But I'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear if you ever used any of these sheets, but also if there's one of these that you're inspired to use at this point. We can also say that, you know, sometimes you look at all these decision sheets and you're like, which one should I choose? You know, they are all useful, and that would be a good point. You know, when you look at the decision sheets, like, can you imagine a business that can't use that decision sheet? Can you imagine a business that is not looking at objections in the sales, that do not have a pipeline? You know, that doesn't think about its services. So in a way, sometimes you feel, I don't know which one to choose. All of them are good. In that case, we would simply recommend that you send all 5 sheets to the client and just let them decide and say, look, I got these 5 tools here. Pick the one that you like the best, just one. And if the client picks 2, no harm done. If the client do all 5, no harm done at all, right? And I think what will happen likely is that clients will say, like, I like all these sheets, but this is too much. I think you said, Beth just left us, but Beth said, you know, in the chat that to some clients, decision sheets can be overwhelming, even if we made them so simple. We made them 1 page. We put them in a straightforward language, but what makes them overwhelming is not the decision sheet. It's the decision that is hard. That's why they need a business advisor in the first place. So I think, again, if in doubt, just send all the decision sheet to the client and tell them select the one that you think is most useful to you.
Yeah, start with 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Start with 1. So,
yeah. John says in the chat, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I think my problem is remembering to send the decision sheets. You need the sales process yourself.
Oh, that's funny. Yes. Well, we have a sheet for that, don't we, John? So you just go through it. Yeah. And especially for someone like you, John, you are a private consultant, so is Pierre, where you need to always have something new to come back to the clients with, so you can create a long-term relationship, right? So I always thought that, first of all, doing the screening that makes people realize their needs, and then, you know, feeding them with these decision sheets. Actually, what's going to happen is not that you give someone a decision sheet and they say, thank you very much, I don't need you anymore. On the contrary, it's going to be like, oh, I filled this out. Now I need even more help. I just realized, you know, the importance and significance and complexity of this decision, right? So, and I know from when back in the days, you know, when we were a startup company and I was coaching entrepreneurs myself, we were a little worried right then in the early days, are we going to give away our intellectual property to all these entrepreneurs and then they won't buy anything from us? No, it didn't happen. It was the opposite. We shared these on our workshops and it only made clients come back. Can we just go through this, you know? Can you expand on this? And by the way, what should I really decide here? So share the wealth and it will come back.
Yeah, absolutely. But I've kind of shared an outline of what training I've been doing. Gosh, David, I started this training late September. So I've been doing this training every Monday since late September. And it's this outline, this kind of form, if you're interested in doing that with cohort groups or whatever it might be, has been very successful. So it's really worked out really well. So just a few minutes left. So we'll go ahead and wrap up this portion and then talk about some options here. So wrapping up, you know, we want to take a look at, you know, what we've got here in sales and service in this focus area. So we took a look at these 3 frameworks from the sales chain and the sales funnel, and then having that client dialogue. And again, each one of these has a videos. If you're doing training, you can show the videos as well. And then we looked at the decision sheets here from the sales chain and how to strengthen the sales process, build that pipeline, estimate sales, create a plan for the monthly sales activities, prepare responses to expected customer objections, and then deliver great service throughout that buying process. So trying to make that really easy for the clients with that. Now, you can always come back for recertification. We've got 2 coming up December 14th, and then also in January, so on the 20th. So I think those are like a Wednesday and a Tuesday. So if you're interested in that, or if you want to talk more about training, you can schedule a call with me, growthwheel.com/call Elizabeth. And so I've got 4 different options here for you to schedule calls with me and have those conversations. So I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody and see if there's any comments here at the end, as we wrapped up right on time.
Yeah. Why don't we take a round and just share what is our takeaway from this session? And why don't we start, John, with you, and Per, you on deck. What's your takeaway, John, from today?
Then I need to go back and refresh my memory of the whole sales process, and not to assume that my clients know some of the terminology, or that they need to review the whole process themselves. It's tried and true information. It's a process, and I think that's what I've realized that I need to do.
Right. Thank you. Pierre, what is your takeaway today? And Andrea, you are on deck.
Well, again, a great session. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I think it's great to get a kind of a review of what we have in this kind of toolbox, or the wallet of the growth wheel. And as John said, well, we got so many resources. Sometimes, what do you pick? I think there's something that starts well before all of this stuff. That is that you have a crystal picture of what is the value that you are selling. And this is go with a tangible product. If you're selling a hammer, you can verify the quality straight away. However, many times we are selling a service where the quality is first really determined at the end of the session. So you need really to be able to sell the expectation for the client. So I think this is a great session. Again, a reminder of how comprehensive tools we have in the toolbox. So very pleased with this session.
Thank you so much, Pierre. And Andrea and Yvonne, you take us home.
Yes, I'm agreeing with Pierre. Very practical tools, that can be very helpful, reminding us about the whole sales funnel. I love how the tools are done in a way that, you tick off certain things, you say what is happening now, and then the next column now is how can it be improved. So everything is just, there in a snapshot that you can go back look at and see how the clients are progressing after that when you do the further activities. So, great.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And lastly, Yvonne, what was your takeaway here from your second session today?
It's just the importance of ensuring that we pay attention to every aspect of the sales process, and that even the objections is something that you really need to pay attention to. Why is it that somebody isn't buying my product? And if there's something I can do better, our customers and the clients really need to pay attention to those things so that they can be better in terms of how they do business. So I definitely will be reminding my clients how to pay attention to every aspect of the sales process.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us for today's tool training. And I think we're going to start doing these more in the new year. So we'll continue with some of those. So it's some tool training.
Go around the wheel and focus on different tools so we can all get a chance to review them, hear some experiences, and have them be more present in our minds so we remember them when they can be useful to our clients.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much for being with us. And we'll see you next month. And we're going to be announcing our continuing education program for 2022. And we'll be announcing that next month.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.